Hey everybody, so today I am here to talk to you guys about our recurrent miscarriage journey. This is a video that I've been wanting to do for quite some time, but I just felt like I needed to be in a certain headspace and also just feel right about doing it, and I feel like I'm finally there. For those of you who have been following our journey for quite some time, probably already know most of this information, so this might not be the most insightful or surprising kind of video. You might know a lot of this information already, but I did want to consolidate it all in one spot for those of you who may have not followed along with us, who just want a video about someone else's experience with recurrent miscarriage, and just kind of put everything in one spot. There are a few things that I really wanted to get into, and at the end of the video I did ask you questions on Instagram that weren't going to be covered in the points that I already had. So in this video we are going to talk about what recurrent pregnancy loss is. We're also going to go over quickly, or as quick as I can make it, our journey and what we experienced, also the testing available and what we've had done, also if we have tried anything different, because I am currently 28 weeks pregnant with a successful pregnancy after all of this. So I do get a lot of questions about if we had tried anything differently, and I will cover all of that, and then also go over the impacts that recurrent pregnancy loss has had, how I coped, and like I said, a few of your guys' questions. So according to the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, recurrent pregnancy loss is defined as having 2 or more miscarriages. After 3 repeated miscarriages, a thorough physical exam and testing are recommended. This happens to 1% of women. So even though most women will experience a miscarriage at some time in their life, which is awful in and of itself, the actual risk of having multiple miscarriages is really, really low. Obviously, 1% is a very small chance. So now I just kind of want to go over our journey as quickly as possible for those of you who may not know it. If you do, I will put a timestamp, or in case you don't care, you can just jump over this part and get into the other things that I'm going to talk about. But our experience with miscarriage actually started all the way back in 2013. It was our very first pregnancy, and it ended in a miscarriage, and it was absolutely devastating, and it really took both of us by surprise. I think both Mark and I were relatively naive, even though at the time I had people in my life who had experienced miscarriage and stillbirth and so many different things. Even though I had those people in my life, I just didn't think it was going to happen to me. Not on a egotistical level where I thought, oh, I'm untouchable and nothing's gonna happen. It's just something that I didn't even think of, something that wasn't really in my mindset of possibilities. So it really did take us by surprise. It was very, very difficult for us. Honestly, that time was probably one of the roughest times in Mark and I's relationship. It was the first time having to be in a situation where we were both grieving and understanding, two people, even if you're in love and you're so close and you're the best of friends, even if you're super alike personality wise, two people can grieve entirely differently. And when you are partners and you're going through that together, it takes some time to figure out the best way to help each other, because what might help me might not help him, and vice versa. And then 2 months later, we did conceive our oldest daughter, Sophie, and that pregnancy overall was generally healthy. I delivered her at full term, although with her pregnancy I had a very hard time enjoying it in the first half of it. The farther we got along, the more it was easy for me to enjoy it, but at first, and quite frankly entirely through the pregnancy, I was terrified of losing her at any point. But like I said, I did deliver her full term, and she was a healthy little baby. She is 4.5 years old now. And then shortly after, when Sophie was around 9 months, we started trying for our youngest daughter, Remy. And we actually started trying relatively early because we didn't think it would happen as quickly as it did. With our experience of trying to get pregnant with Sophie, it actually took several months before we even got pregnant at all. So we were kind of expecting that to happen again, but it didn't. It actually happened the first try. And then as soon as that happened, I had this overwhelming kind of fear that maybe it happened so quickly because it was going to be taken away again. And that fear actually subsided relatively quickly compared to when it did with Sophie. Again, this is something that I do carry throughout the pregnancy, but it's overwhelming in the beginning. But it does taper off to be more bearable, at least with my 2 girls' pregnancies. And like I said, it did seem to ease up quicker with Remy, and I'm not quite sure why that was. I again delivered Remy at full term. Her pregnancy was relatively healthy, generally speaking, and she is now 3 years old. We had a conversation in early 2017 about when we actually wanted to start trying to have another baby, and we agreed that we would take 2017 to do some financial goals that we wanted to achieve, and that's what we really wanted to focus on. And it was a hard decision because we both wanted to have another child at that point, but we just had decided that it was the best for our entire family financially if we held off, and in 2018 we started trying. However, just a few months later, I experienced a chemical pregnancy, and that was the first chemical pregnancy that I had ever had. I basically found out I was pregnant as I was miscarrying, and it was super difficult for me. It was literally just a couple months after we had had that conversation about waiting until 2018. I would just tell Mark all the time that it felt really mean of life to do that, because I had put myself in a mindset of waiting and it'll be all right. But then I got pregnant just to find out that I was miscarrying. So it made me want to be pregnant. It made me want to have a successful pregnancy, a healthy pregnancy, to have a living baby. And it just kind of kicked that want into like hyperdrive. And there was nothing that could really change. It was still financially more responsible to wait. So that whole year was difficult emotionally because of wanting something that was better if we waited. And I felt like I hadn't asked to be put in that situation before the miscarriage. I had a good mindset of waiting, and I felt more patient about waiting and actually conceiving. But when I had that chemical pregnancy, it just kind of changed everything for me. And it was really hard to sit with that for several months and wait until we were ready to try. Which brings me to 2018, and that's when we started actively trying. First month in January, right away. Again, both of us really weren't expecting for it to happen first try or anything. Honestly, we didn't know what to expect with it taking several months with Sophie, but taking the first try with Remy, we just didn't really know. So for that reason, we were just kind of trying to be as relaxed about it as possible and just trying to go with the flow, basically. It took us 2 months to conceive, and then we got our first positive, which was really awesome, and we were so excited, obviously. And everything was going really good. We actually even got to our first appointment and everything was looking super well. And I honestly felt the best I think I'd ever felt about a pregnancy since our very first miscarriage. You know, I did still have my fears, but they were nothing compared to Sophie and Remy's pregnancies. And I just found that super strange. I'm not even sure quite still why that is. I don't know if it's time. I don't know. I don't have an answer, but I just know that I felt really great about the pregnancy. And it wasn't until around 11 weeks that that feeling started to change. Like I said, we did get to our first appointment where we did an ultrasound and we heard baby's heartbeat and we looked at baby and everything looked amazing. And that was, I think, around a little shy of 8 weeks. I think it was 7 weeks and so many days was that appointment. And it was around 11 weeks I started to tell Mark that I was worried, and he would always tell me that, you know, if something was wrong we would know it, and you know, I'd obviously be miscarrying. And he hadn't up until that point known what a missed miscarriage was, and that is where you do have a miscarriage but your body doesn't respond to it as quickly, so it doesn't happen right away. So the baby's no longer alive, but your body's not showing symptoms of a miscarriage, and you don't know that it's happening, basically. So I told him about that, and I told him how like that was my worst fear. And then it was one night I bled the tiniest bit, literally so tiny, and I just knew. So Mark took me to the ER, and we ended up finding out that I did have a miscarriage. The baby had stopped growing at around 8 weeks, so literally probably right after that ultrasound that we had that was really great, and they no longer had a heartbeat. So at that point, it was just total devastation. I was 12 weeks and like 4 days when we got the news. There was a lot of physical complications with that miscarriage. I had to end up going back to the ER, and there is just a lot of stuff with it that physically left a lot of emotional baggage for me. Stuff that I don't even think I could really say out loud because it is just so horrifying to have to relive. I'm so thankful that my husband was there, because if I need to talk to him about it, I don't have to go into detail. It's just something that he knows what I'm talking about because he was there in the room with me. But a lot happened with it, and being so far along, and it being a miscarriage, and it was something that I was really terrified of, and it was like my worst nightmare. It was so much. It was devastating. It did take a while for my HCG levels to go back to normal. I think I had like 7 or 8 HCG draws, and I had to have ultrasounds and everything to make sure that everything was okay. But even though this was my second consecutive miscarriage, my OB at the time didn't feel it necessary to look into it any further, even though by the definition of recurrent miscarriages, that's where it started. But I did not have any testing done at that point. And we started trying, and I did get pregnant again right after in June, and I had another chemical pregnancy. And again, it was one of those ones where I found out I was pregnant just as I was miscarrying, and that one left me more angry than anything, honestly, because I just was starting to lose my patience. I wasn't understanding why this kept happening, and quite frankly, I was just so angry that this was something that was happening again. So then after that, we continued to try, and during this time I was not getting pregnant, and I also found a new OB, and he wanted to do testing on me right away. So we started doing testing for different blood clotting disorders, different gene mutations, vitamin deficiencies. He tested my hormone levels. He did so much. The only things that we did not do were genetic testing and progesterone testing. The progesterone was because I had on record progesterone levels tested in the past, during pregnancies, not during pregnancies, and they were all fine. That's the only reason why we didn't go ahead with that. But I had so many labs done, I had biopsies done, I had so much done, and the only reason why we did not do genetic testing was because, again, we had 2 full-term healthy children, and that probably wasn't an issue. Also, we were told that most people, when they do genetic testing, don't get any results, and it was also super costly. I can't remember the price, but I want to say it was around $3,000 for the both of us to get that testing done. There was a lot of reasons combined together, which is why we didn't move ahead to the genetic testing. But those are the only 2 that I didn't have done that are known of, the tests that you can have. And I ended up getting all the results back the month before I ended up getting pregnant again, which was that everything looked fine. Everything was okay with me. Everything was within range, and everything was okay. And that stung a lot more than what I thought it would. I thought that not having anything wrong with me would make me feel better. I don't see where either way I would have felt super hopeful and happy and like accepting of the results. So it really did sting that I now had a diagnosis of unexplained recurrent miscarriage. And then shortly after, in November, we did get pregnant again. However, I had another miscarriage, and that one left me drained. That's the best way I can put it. But it was at that point that I really started to feel like I knew what my limit was. Speaking from a personal standpoint, I had not reached that limit before that third miscarriage in that year. And I had to have a very candid conversation with Mark and sit him down and just tell him that I felt like I was gonna break and that we needed to step away from this so I could remember how to be Alia and how to, you know, just be myself without needing to constantly worry about what I was eating or what I was drinking or if I took my prenatal or, you know, if I'm pregnant and the 2-week wait and just all this stuff. Like, I just wanted to go back to being myself so I could give myself room to breathe and heal and kind of just rest from all of this, because it had been so much physically, mentally, emotionally, that I just needed that. I just needed to be done for a little bit. My husband is crazy supportive and amazing, and he understood entirely. So the month of December, we just went about our normal lives. We went back to just kind of being Mark and Alia, mom and dad, and we just enjoyed it. Like, I went out and I ate a Caesar salad without worrying if I was pregnant and I shouldn't have done that, you know, stuff like that. You know, I was just trying to get back into enjoying the little things, not stressing about our situation, and just trying to step back from that and really just enjoy stepping back from that. And then, to our surprise, at the end of December, we found out that we were pregnant again. And quite frankly, I had a super good feeling about this pregnancy from the very start. However, after everything, Mark was actually, we kind of switched roles, I guess is the best way to put it. You know, I felt super great about everything. I felt super confident for like no good reason. And he had a really hard time in the beginning. However, after our first appointment, which we had a totally different line of care at this point because of everything that had gone on and with my new OB, that we got in there earlier and we saw things progress and things, and it was like, the more we saw that, the more we went back to the roles that we had before, where I start to worry and he starts to just accept it and he's confident. My pregnancy thus far, this time around, like I said, I am 28 weeks. It was really hard in the first trimester. I think everything that I had been through physically with the 3 miscarriages this year put me in a real rough spot. I mean, emotionally too. Slowly after the first trimester, I did start to feel better and better about it, and I do feel like I'm in a lot more healthy of a mindset now than I was in the beginning of the pregnancy, but I still do have anxiety and worries, and I still stress out, and I feel like this pregnancy is different in a lot of ways, and I do feel like it has been emotionally and mentally a little bit harder than it was with Sophie and Remy, but we went through so much in such a short amount of time that I feel like it makes sense that it feels like that. So as of now, as of being 7 months pregnant, you know, I do feel like I'm in a better place than at the beginning of my pregnancy, but it definitely has been hard dealing with emotions and anxiety and everything that kind of comes with pregnancy after loss. So during that summary, I did touch on the testing that we had. Obviously, I did say that I basically had almost everything done and my results came back perfectly normal. So from my standpoint, the recurrent miscarriage was unexplained, and that's what the diagnosis is still to this day. My husband did go get some testing done as well. It did come back that he had low testosterone, but before we could get a sperm analysis done, I did get pregnant with the pregnancy that I have right now. So we didn't feel it necessary to move forward with the sperm analysis because this will be our last pregnancy. Also, with this pregnancy, we did not try anything different. A lot of people made the comment of, well, you know, you guys just didn't try and that's what it was and that's all you needed. But that's not what helped us. Conceiving generally isn't our issue, thankfully. It's holding on to pregnancies and the pregnancies being healthy enough to live and thrive and last. So us relaxing, us taking a break didn't really do anything that it probably wouldn't have if we hadn't been trying. So we didn't do anything different. You know, my diet really didn't change other than I just went back to maybe eating some of the stuff I shouldn't have, or, you know, the stricter diet I put myself on when we're trying to conceive. Like I said, I try to avoid certain foods or caffeine and stuff like that during the 2-week wait, and I stopped kind of doing that. But I was still taking my prenatal. I take the Actif prenatals. I'll put a picture right here. I get them off of Amazon. I've taken them for, I think, going on 2 years now, so I swear by them. They are 1 pill a day. They have DHA in them. All of the vitamins are naturally derived, which is better when you're taking vitamins. Also, it has L-methylfolate in it, which is the most natural version of folate, which is the most natural version of folic acid. It's just better. And I just like these because even though they're like around $40 a bottle, you take 1 a day and it's for 90 days, which is almost 3 months. So in my opinion, they're far more affordable as a natural vitamin that has really great stuff in it than other brands. Also, all the times I've been pregnant and I've been on them, they have not made me nauseous. They haven't made my nausea worse or anything like that. So I really enjoyed those. I'm still enjoying them. I'm going to keep taking them for quite some time. But regardless, we did not try anything different. And I know that hurts to hear because I would watch video after video after video of people with recurrent miscarriage just waiting to hear to see what they tried so I could try it. And there was so many women who said, I didn't do anything differently. We just kept doing what we were doing and it just happened to be our time. And that's what I told Mark I felt like would happen when we were in the thick of everything. That's what I truly believed, and that is what happened. You know, healthy egg, healthy sperm met up and they were able to thrive and do what they're supposed to in those situations, and everything turned out for the best, and we're super thankful for that. But unfortunately, I don't have any tips or advice to give you in things to try differently because at that point we hadn't done anything. I also wanted to quickly mention that I wasn't on any supplements or I wasn't on any extra things at all. I was literally only taking my prenatal vitamin. Mark was taking a multivitamin. Mark was on a multivitamin, and even though we knew about the low testosterone, he had not yet started on his hormone therapy replacement, so he did not have extra testosterone in his system or anything like that. We were literally just working with multivitamins for the both of us. As far as the impacts that it had, they are great. 2018 was the roughest year of our life, and it's something that we both will never forget, and it's something that we still both deal with to this day. It can look very different on the both of us and how we're going through it and how we deal with it, but slowly but surely I have made progress in that as well. It still hurts. It's always going to hurt. I'm never going to forget about it. I'm not going to get over it. It's not something that you just deal with and it's gone, it's done, it's over. It's something that for the rest of your life, you know, you just learn to live with it. And personally, day by day, it has emotionally and mentally gotten a little easier to carry. You know, I'm not going to say again that I got over it or that I'm dealing with it and it's going to be done soon. I've learned how to take all of those emotions and that mental and emotional experience and make it easier for me to get through the next day with that in tow. Mark, of course, went through this journey with me, so of course, you know, he's gone through things and dealing with things as well. And while I will say that I feel like Lexi, the little girl that I have right now at 28 weeks, even though I feel like she has restored a lot of his hope and his faith in this whole process, at the same time, I know that it's still something that he carries with him because of conversations we have and things that we say to each other. It definitely still weighs, but he is far better at dealing with his emotions in a quicker time than I am. So I feel like he might be in a better place with everything than I am, but certainly the impact has not lessened on either of us. That's not something that I think will ever go away. But as far as our marriage is concerned, like I said, in 2013, Our very first miscarriage was really, really hard because we didn't know how each other grieved. And that can cause complications quick if you don't figure it out. 2018 was such a hard year for us, but at the same time, we were a team the entire time. So it felt like it wasn't just me, it wasn't just him, it wasn't us separately going through stuff, even though it probably technically was. There's things I experienced that he can't, and there's feelings I'm sure he had that I didn't, and you know, all that stuff. But it still felt like a team effort. I didn't feel 100% alone because I always had him, and it just brought us closer together. Like, the love that I have for him runs deeper, and he says the same for me, and it's something that really brought us together. I think helping us get through those times is just communication, saying what I needed when I needed it, and not being afraid to was just key. And him vice versa, and the other person hearing that and being able to do the best with it that they can. You know, there was no judgment, there was no anything with it. It was just literally trying to help each other the best we could with what the other person was saying. So that's the impact that I feel like I can best summarize. Of course, there's feelings and emotions that I can't put into words. But as far as how I've coped with my recurrent pregnancy loss, I guess I would say it's complicated. You know, I feel like it probably doesn't make sense to a lot of people when I come on camera and I have, you know, so many subscribers and I'm talking to so many people, that I say that I like to deal with things more privately. But I do, you know, and that probably seems a little backwards, but it is the truth. And even though I am more of a private person and I like to be more left alone with things to deal with on my own, I also do, like anybody, appreciate support and appreciate people still being there for me and doing what they can. However, with this experience, I don't think that I had enough of it. I don't tend to reach out to many people because I don't think that many people care. I'm that kind of person. I also don't like to feel like I'm dumping stuff on people either. I don't know what it is. I don't, but I'm not one to initiate a conversation. I'm honestly not one to say, hey, I could really use like a good talk about this. Do you mind listening? Or, you know, like whatever. I'm not good at that, and I won't do it because it makes me feel even worse than how I'm already feeling. So I just tend to keep to myself. I tend to deal with stuff on my own. And quite frankly, there's only one person that I feel comfortable saying those kind of things to, and it's my husband, because he's really shown me no judgment. He has shown up every time I've needed him, and for that reason, I feel comfortable enough to do that. I am going to try and find some really good resources for you guys and put them in the description box, whether it's a website, Instagram, Facebook. Try to find stuff the best that I can. That way, whatever you might feel is best for you, I'm gonna try and hit something for everybody, the best I can at least, because everybody does grieve differently. You might be somebody who doesn't want anything to do with the online community while you're going through something like this, and I can understand. Now when I think back to our miscarriage that happened in 2013, I feel so much more love from that than I do pain. It took so long to get there, so long. Obviously, that was almost 6 years ago now, and it took a long time to feel that. But I did things over that 6 years that brought me peace in moments, that helped me, that allowed me to grieve over these past 6 years. And now I feel like now I can say that. And I know that I'll eventually get to that place, because now when I think of 2018, I still feel more pain. I still feel more hurt and angry than really anything. But each day I can feel it starting to transition into something else. And I know that's from taking care of myself, allowing myself to grieve in a healthy way, doing things that bring me peace and that make me feel good, doing things that I need in that time, and giving myself the space to do these things. And if I continue to do them over years and years and years, I know eventually 2018 is going to feel a lot different than it does right now for me. So, you know, that's just my perspective. You know, everybody copes and grieves in their own ways, and I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong. I'm just here to share my perspective. So now I'm just going to get to your guys' questions. The very first one that I have is, could Mark's low testosterone have anything to do with it? We don't know. Like I said, we didn't get to the sperm analysis, and there's a possibility that might have showed that maybe his sperm weren't as healthy as what they could have been, which could then in turn maybe explain some of the miscarriages. Maybe not having healthy sperm, you know, obviously isn't going to create the healthiest embryo, and so on and so on. So we're not sure, but it wasn't a factor in this pregnancy, and I'm thankful for that. So for that reason, we'll probably never know, but it is a possibility. Although I will say that we were told time and time again that just because he does have low testosterone doesn't mean that there's something wrong with his sperm. You have to have a sperm analysis done to know that. You can't say for sure just because of low testosterone that something is wrong. The next question is, what ways can I be supportive of a friend going through this? And I'm so glad someone asked this question. This was the second question I got, and it literally almost brought me to tears, because what you're doing right now, asking that question, is exactly the kind of thing your friend needs. You know, being brave enough to just be like, you know, would you like to talk about it today? Like, I'm here to listen if you need anything. If they're going to an appointment that you know is going to be hard, like if they're going in for an HCG draw or an ultrasound, just be like, I'm thinking of you today. If you need to talk afterwards, you know, I'm here for you. Text me, call me, whatever. You know, I think a lot of people think that people need presents, endless flowers, or frozen meals and stuff like that, but it's not really about that. Because when I think back to it, and I think back to the people who made a difference in those days going through that, it was more the people who literally knew who I was as a person and just appreciated that, but showed that they wanted to be there for me. You just want to make sure that you're not ignoring them if they're willing to talk to you. You know, if they're talking to you, please respond. You know, don't just ignore them, because they're trying to be brave enough to do that. And when people don't respond, when you feel okay enough to talk about it, it's like, why do I bother? You know, why did I even try opening up? Because nobody cares. That's exactly how it feels. So making sure you're listening if they are willing to talk to you is huge. Letting them know that they can say no to things, that they can say yes to things, that, you know, it doesn't need to be about your feelings, it's about whatever they feel up to and stuff like that. And not trying to give them advice. Don't, you know, there's no advice to give here. You know, nothing anybody says is going to make any of it better. But listening, or just being with them, or hanging out with them, getting them out of the house, whatever might fit them best as a person, which again is just going to come down to whoever might be going through it. Just appreciating who they are and what they need without trying to give your take on the situation is just one of the best things you can do. It just shows a gentle support that says, I'm here if you need me, and I'm not going to be far away. And it just allows them to feel more comfortable to probably reach out when they're ready. But I just want to say a huge thank you to the person who asked that question, because I think that just shows how great of a friend you really are. Someone asked the possible signs of a miscarriage. I know a lot of doctors don't spend a lot of time going over symptoms of miscarriage because they can, by themselves, be normal in pregnancy. Bleeding can happen and actually be normal to a certain extent. Also, cramping is a relatively normal symptom of the first trimester, with baby getting nuzzled in there, along with backache and, you know, just things like that by themselves aren't a huge red flag indicator. However, if you are having them and you're worried about it, obviously seek medical attention. That's your best bet. If you are concerned, if you are bleeding and having cramps and backache and everything all combined, then it might be best to go ahead and get checked out. You know, an ultrasound or some blood work can shed a lot of light on things. But I would say try not to focus too much on the symptoms unless you're having several together that make you concerned. And then I probably wouldn't try to self-diagnose. I would just try and go to either your OB or your ER. And then the last question is something that I'm also glad somebody asked, because it's kind of the way that I wanted to end this video. And someone asked, how did you keep hope? And honestly, there was several times where, if I'm being 110% truthful, that I didn't have hope that things would get better. I didn't think that conceiving would happen this year or maybe next year or the year after that. I thought it might take several years for us to get this chance at a healthy pregnancy. Being hopeful really came in waves for me. You know, it wasn't something that I had entirely throughout our recurrent pregnancy loss journey. It wasn't something that I even had throughout this pregnancy that I have right now. It's something that comes in waves. It's something that does tend to fluctuate, unfortunately, given what we've been through. And I think that's normal. But the best thing you can do is, if you're not feeling hopeful, is to talk to somebody about it. It's not going to fix all your problems and be this magic wand that just miraculously makes you feel all kinds of different, but it really can help, because I felt like nothing was really going to give me hope at one point other than having a healthy pregnancy. And I feel like I can agree with that to this day, that Lexi is what restored a lot of my hope in this whole process. But also hearing stories like you guys. Several of you along the way, along our journey, left comments saying, I went through this, I had so many miscarriages, and now I have so-and-so. And it was so amazing to read those, because those were literally, quite frankly, the only like little glimmers of hope that I could find throughout all this. Recurrent pregnancy loss took a lot from me, and hope was one of those things on a regular basis. But the only thing that really got me through that, to the moments where I did feel hopeful for whatever reason, was communicating that, whether it was to my husband or to you guys, and just having, you know, my husband listen to me and understand how I was feeling, or you guys sharing your stories and kind of giving me those little inspirations of maybe one day things would be different. You know, I don't really have a good formula or a good suggestion on how to keep hope, because this is a very, very intense ride that you go on with recurrent pregnancy loss. It's something that, you know, is so up and down that it would be really hard to somehow keep hope throughout the whole thing. And if someone has, that's just absolutely amazing to me. I don't know, I don't really have a good answer to that one, and it's just something that I took day by day and I just try to do my best at. But quite frankly, I think when you're dealing with recurrent pregnancy loss and miscarriage, it's just something that kind of comes and goes, and I think that's pretty normal. I did want to say a big thank you to you guys. You know, you guys were such a big part of that journey and getting through it, feeling like I had somebody to talk to, and you guys always left the nicest, most supportive comments, and honestly, it meant the world to me. It still does. I have not forgotten all of your sweet comments. There's so many of you who still comment to this day, and I still remember, you know, just the amazing support that you offered during that time. And fortunately, I am on the other side of this now. I do have a healthy pregnancy, and I wish that for everybody who's watching this, in hopes that they have one too, because I know what it's like to want that and to just need it at a certain point. You know, you just need it to happen for you. I hope that your turn is right around the corner and that you don't have to wait much longer. And, you know, if there's any questions that I can answer, I will definitely do my best. You can leave them down below. I don't have the answers to everything. And again, this isn't so much like a how to survive kind of video or anything like that. It's just sharing our journey, and, you know, maybe something I said could just give you a little bit more strength or hope, or just anything that you might be needing right now, because I know it's such a draining mental and emotional and physical kind of journey. If you guys have any resources that you personally felt like got you through your miscarriages, please leave it in the comments below so other people can rifle through those and, you know, find whatever might fit them best. I don't know that it feels appropriate to say that I hope you enjoyed this video, but I hope you did find it helpful. But as always, thanks for watching.